What's up, everyone, and welcome to NSFW, an after-hours podcast that gives it to you straight about the new world of business. On today's episode, should you feel like a dick if you're categorizing winners and losers in the business world in your head? We also have Elliot, our money man here, that's going to tell you that if you've grown your sales this year but not your profits, should you reward yourself by going out to a steak dinner, or should you stay home and keep an eye on your bottom line? If you're listening at the office, be sure to put in your headphones because this is not safe for work. What's up, guys, and welcome to NSFW Podcast. I'm Jesse from Generations Beyond. To my left, Jesse Viola from Viola International and APM Shipping Services. And to my right, Elliot Dillietto, our money man from Leadership Efficiencies. How's it going, guys?
What's up?
Awesome.
So we are the NSFW Podcast. This is episode 4. I think we're finally getting our sea legs. So people are asking me, if this is so NSFW, what do you got? So I figured I'll break it open with a little bit more of a controversial topic and take the gloves off a little bit.
All right.
So
titties? What? Who said that?
So I'm a cynical asshole. I was at a business networking group, and the moderator's talking about how, as a business owner, you have to, treat everybody equally. I had this small client with no money, but he introduced me to his, this big client with millions of dollars. And, I feel like there's this in society and in business, all this advice is like, we got to float on clouds and be, nice to people. And I'm sitting there thinking, opposite the whole time, I'm a cynical ass. I think judging people, profiling people, it's actually a business skill. How can you be a busy business person and give everyone the exact same amount of time?
No way.
Not separate the winners and the losers.
You can't. I think time is your. I mean, we don't have to. It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive in terms of just being a dick and saying listen, you're not worth my fucking time. But I think you got to be really careful with. I mean, because it's funny. I was listening to. You ever hear of Chris Sacca? He's internet VC guy,
okay. And
he was talking about how he moved from Silicon Valley. He moved to Colorado. He moved to a bunch of different places, but outside of Silicon Valley. And he said that my life became I would have fucking 13 coffees a day because I would just meet people in coffee shops and we would talk about their deals and they're pitching me and I would just have coffee after coffee after coffee. And he's eventually I realized that
I'm gonna
I'm drinking too much fucking coffee.
I'm gonna die.
And this is not how I envisioned, my success to be. It's not how I envisioned what I want my world to be. I want to work on the things that I care about and that I want to work about that will bring the most benefit to me, whatever that means. But if you just give away your time all the time, you kind of have to be a little bit analytical about what are you trying to accomplish and who are the best people to team up with. Now, at the same time, you want to make an omelet, you got to break some fucking eggs.
Right.
But I think you can definitely be choice and you can be choosy and you could be careful.
You say you're cynical, but I think you're just being practical. Practical is your time is worth something to you and to the people that you know and love. And you're going to value that time that you spend outside your business. So when you're in your business and you're spending time, you want to make it worth your while. So there's nothing wrong with saying, who your targets are. You can be polite to people. You don't have to be an outright asshole about it and say, you know what? Nice meeting you, but you're not worth my time. Don't call me. I'm not giving you my business card. All right? Well, that's foolish.
That's what I do.
Because if you do that, you're basically letting people know that you are an asshole. Okay, there has to be some level of political correctiveness.
Yeah, sure.
And if you're in a situation where you're trying to build relationships, to me, I'm all about connecting with people. Once I connect with people, I let the natural course take place. So if we have a connection and we continue to have, we can have a personal connection more than a business connection, and it's great. You make friends along the way, golf buddies. Boat buddies, whatever you want to do in your free time, together, hang out, interests, parties, whatever. But business, you never say no to any relationship unless they're not a great connection for you. And, there's a lot of comparisons to how you get along with people in business. We generally all like each other. Hence, that's how we ended up doing this, right? I mean, you end up doing business with people. 85% of
I'm
business is
just fucking
done.
using you guys.
I was gonna
You
say
know?
you didn't tell.
Like, I really don't like you guys.
Doing with people.
I
You
just
do
think,
85% of business.
This show is gonna make
All right,
me
listen,
famous.
Shut the hell up. Because that ain't going to happen. 85% of business is done with people that you like.
Yeah, for sure.
And you connect with.
For
So
sure.
if you come across people in meetings or networking events, and you realize, all right, it's nice meeting them, then you can give them a very polite blow off when it comes to professionals. Say, you know what? I think that's great what you're doing. I don't see any level of connectedness between our businesses.
We're not the right fit. I'm not
but I'd
the
love
right
to be
fit.
able to put you together with people if I come across anybody that might use your services.
Yeah.
It's not basically going, I want nothing to do with you anymore. But you're basically saying to them, okay, well, maybe this level of conversation was worth my time, your time, and we'll see each other, and some people call it the rubber chicken circuit, on Long Island, which is where we are. Oh, it's the rubber chicken circuit. You're seeing the same people out there networking all the time.
Rubber chicken circuit.
Rubber chicken.
Let's go into that. What does that mean?
Well, because you're basically, selling the same product or service over and over again. You're seeing the same people over and over again. It's not developing new business.
Yeah, because let's face it, all of the shit that we do, like none of it's you, it's us. You know what I mean? And that's kind of, it's a good thing and a bad thing. Like, it's not like all of our businesses, whatever they may be, whichever ones. There's a lot of that here. Sure. There's a lot of people that do each of the things that we do.
Absolutely.
Ultimately,
you can remove the face and change it with somebody else. It's still the same service.
But people, I think that in my style of developing relationships, most of the time it's because people like dealing with me. So that's how the relationships begin.
Point for
So,
me.
I mean, externally, maintaining business, persona and, filtering the people through. I think internally, profiling. It's a horrible word.
Profiling.
Well, you get
if
into fucking,
if you're walking down the street and
politically,
and
we might
four,
get
You've been business profiled.
you're walking down the street and 4 skinheads are walking your way. You're a bad person if you think about crossing the street.
Yeah.
But I think internally, as a
Not
business,
unless I'm selling tattoo ink. And if I'm selling tattoo ink, I might approach them.
internally, as a business person, society is telling you, don't profile, you're bad, you're bad, you're bad. But I think you need that skill, and internally, you should be, rewarding yourself for getting good at profiling.
Yeah,
and
no,
categorizing people.
I could say now, like, we're almost doing what we're doing almost, at 8 p.m. Or at 2017, 2017 will be 10 years. 2018 will be 10 years. I can say that now, like, I zero in on what's an opportunity and what's a waste of time much faster. And, like, I've trained the people that work for us, like because we'll get calls all day long. And I know basically the profile of the waste of time stuff. So, like, I've given them, like, a laundry list of things. Like, if we get this, that, or this, I'm not fucking interested. And, and then, but it doesn't mean that it's always not a good thing, but it kind of puts a little bit more onus on those people to kind of prove that it's a worthwhile opportunity. Because if you let people take your time all the time, you won't have any time to do the things that you need to do to be effective.
Sure.
And opportunities aren't always the same.
Yep.
So what may appear to be just a simple connection may lead to the better opportunities. I've actually had what you described happen to me, where I joined an organization, became a member, and I'm sitting there saying, is this really right for me? Am I with the right people? Well, I'll give it a chance. Never say no. And don't immediately say yes. You say maybe to everything. And the person who says maybe to everything has an open mind. So I joined an organization, met somebody, got to know them, did some great business with them, but not phenomenal business. It was an okay connection. They ended up introducing me to somebody that was a phenomenal client for many years. And so had I not joined, had I not made that step to continue to build that relationship, that opportunity that came my way would not have occurred. And I think there's so many people in so many businesses that are so short-sighted to
I agree with that.
what opportunities are.
I agree with that.
They are just, and listen, I came out of the accounting industry. You want to talk about people who are just like cut and dry. Oh, no, it is what it is. It's black and white. It's either black or white. The glass is half full or half empty. No, it's both.
Yeah. That's a very good point.
It's both. And if you don't look at it that way,
Because you have to
then you're closed-minded.
You have to, it's funny. I think you're dead on, because it's like you get hardened by the grind. You get hardened and cynical by dealing with so many shitheads, but you can't let yourself become closed off to new possibilities, because the places where you least, I mean, and that's something I've struggled with that a lot. Like I've always been like, I'm a really good hunter type salesman. Like I'm really good at tracking it down, closing the deal.
Just ask him; he'll tell
And
you.
then, no, but on the inverse side, the developing the relationship with the client, like, you know, like touching base all the time, getting together for coffee, stopping in. Like I've not been good at that.
So you're not a kissy, smoochy kind of.
I've neglected that.
salesperson.
But recently, I've gotten so frustrated with, you know, when you're trying to get new business and you're looking for new opportunities, nobody wants to fucking talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cares. Nobody wants to talk to you. So I found recently one of the most effective things is reaching out to these people that I already have the relationship with and just kind of talking to them. And then they start to kind of lead you to other people, because it's like people talk to people that they like.
This is not a new concept.
Welcome
to 2016.
I know. I don't know where the fuck I've been.
So let me ask you. I
Under
mean,
a rock, I think.
I came up with this topic, you know, based on what I would call bad or fluffy business advice, which seems to be
Fluffy.
It seems to be the
Fluffy's usually not good. I
Fluffy's
mean,
like
in
a
most
dog.
things.
It seems like that's all there is out there when it comes to business. Like,
Well, because it's fucking consultants trying to sell you shit.
I mean, everyone out there,
With
like,
no real hard knowledge
in
as
order
a
to
base
be
to go from.
Yeah.
in order to be successful, you have to be green, you have to be a family person.
no.
Everything, there's no hard hitting business advice anymore.
But
And
you
if you're
said-
cynical, if you're, you know,
But you used the
profiler-
word before. You said, like, you know, your business persona. Like me, I don't have one. I'm this all the time. I mean, if I'm
You are pretty consistent.
if I'm trying to sell you something and we really don't know each other too well, I try to say fuck not that much. Like I try to keep the amount of times I say fuck down to a minimum.
Very impressive.
But once once we've transacted and you've paid your bill, the fucks start to fly. And then all of a sudden they start saying
No.
fuck too, and then it's like a brotherhood
No shit.
or sisterhood.
Anybody
No, because
who
I think
knows
that's it. I mean, all of us are individuals, and we're best suited by being ourselves, because
Sure.
that's what's going to resonate.
But that's not going
what
to
people-
That's not going to always connect with every business owner. So you put up that business persona, like you said. You come in, walking in, and maybe people read the cynicalness, or maybe they don't. Maybe they're in a position where I just happen to like them, right? First time I met you, comes walking in with blue glasses and blue sneakers to match. I'm like, oh man, how come I can't pull that off? Seriously, I'm like, that is so freaking cool.
It was the fashion.
Right. Well, because again, the standout,
I think I met him the
being
same day.
different,
Probably.
That was the summit,
Right.
yeah.
being different, and I'm like,
And the speaker called you out, right? The guy was like, "This fucking guy with a snazzy suit."
well, but that you don't need to be known as cynical at that point, because you're now making the statement. You're drawing the attention to yourself indirectly, but directly.
Well, let me ask you this. You know, you're a perfect example. You have your persona. Everything, probably 98% of everything in business says, "Don't be you." So do you struggle? I mean, basically, what I'm bringing to the point is, you know, struggling internally, like, you know, I shouldn't profile people. I shouldn't say fuck. I shouldn't. I mean, you being a successful business person, do you struggle and say, well, you know, every book and every speaker says to do this? Do you find outlets that, you know, like a Gary V, where you're like, you know, right?
Yeah,
on.
no, and I think like now, what's happening now is, I mean, I would say a while back I would struggle more about like the thought process that I had to a lot of things, like wondering, like, you know, am I working hard enough? Am I doing the right things? Am I thinking the right things? But I think what's kind of cool about now, and you talk about a guy like Gary Vee, and you talk about like the Tim Ferrisses of the world, and a lot of these dudes that are out there, a lot of that shit that I've encountered with in the last, you know, 3-4 years, it's kind of like validating to like, because I have a thing to where like not a good actor. I you know, if I was hired to play a role of
He just
me,
plays one on TV.
I would do it really good. But it's very hard for me to fake the funk. I've never been good at it. So anytime I've ever tried to like put on an air or like pretend like I'm this kind of like You know, like before I started APM, I briefly worked for one of my larger suppliers, and I would go out with the VP of sales all the time, and I was good, so he took a real liking to me, but he would always try to make me wear slacks. And like a couple of times, like I'd put the fucking slacks on, and I'm like, I can't fucking do this. I just can't do it. And I had a conversation where I said, listen,
I'm chafing.
I'm selling a whole bunch of shit. I'm selling a whole bunch of shit. What do you care what kind of fucking pants I have on? I mean, I think I sell more with jeans on than I do with slacks on because I'm comfortable, because I'm myself. I'm not trying to be something that I'm not. And I think that like eventually you just have to.
But that goes
Just
back to what I said
decide that.
about the connection. You make a connection with people, not a connection with product or service.
Yeah, 100%.
Large corporations do not exist that way until you get to a certain point where you can pick up the phone and make calls.
But you know what?
That
For
you're already
me,
connected with.
And I think it's kind of similar for both of you guys too. Like our targets, like corporate America is not my target.
No, small business has to exist this way.
Yeah.
And what people get hung up on is they read these books written by some guy you just mentioned, I have no clue who he is. And I'm proud to say
Or like
that.
some dude who worked in like the HR department in like fucking Pfizer or some shit like
Listen,
that.
you have to go with what works for you. When you talk about persona, if you're able to, with an image that stands out, that people can connect to a personality, that you now have painted this image to someone that says, hey, not only am I nice and I'm really good at what I do, and I'm also different, and I'm showing you how different I am because I'm wearing the blue glasses that match with the blue shoes, people are going to say, wow, I like that he's a little bit different, and I like his personality. So now you got these connections. You're reinforcing connections, but you're also able to break through a barrier that people may not want you to get through, that they have this image about what you do. If I ever said to anybody, I'm an accountant, they automatically would put me in that little box. This is what you do. You sell pallets, right? You do marketing, web, advertising. The things that you tell people, you don't want to tell people what you do. What you want to say is, I help business owners achieve their goals.
Yeah, what about that? Let's I got a little twist here, right? Because I've always struggled with this.
You want to cut and come back, and we'll bring it to this?
Okay.
All right. So, final thoughts. I am not going to beat myself up over profiling people. I know Elliot says it's okay to be racist.
I said limit the amount of F-bombs. Limit the amount of F-bombs.
He's voting for Trump.
No, I'm not.
They're both voting for Trump. Make America great again. Make America great again.
It's very non-political. I'm not even going to discuss my voting options.
No, but
I'm voting for myself. I'm running in the election.
Business profiling can be a skill. You don't have to beat yourself up because society says
No
judge
way,
everybody
no way.
the same and treat everybody equally. It's definitely an acquired skill. Jesse, any final thoughts on profiling?
I say, you know what, your time, you can make more money, you can't make more time. So you have to really use it as best as you can.
That's why you wear a Rolex.
No, that's not the reason why.
Elliot, any closing thoughts?
Your time is precious. Precious. Use it wisely, and make sure that when you blow people off, you do it very gracefully.
All I heard was blow people.
Blow people off. You're gonna have to go back and redo that.
When
you blow people off, do it gracefully.
We'll see you later.
When you blow people, do it gracefully.
Blow people.
What's up, guys? Welcome back. We have a great resource at our fingertips.
Sage-like wisdom.
Elliot Dilietto, who built a 40-person accounting firm. He has the strictest contract out of all of us. He shows up late, gets to leave early. So I want to utilize him as much as we can on camera and take as much out of his brain as we can.
What
so
do they call that? They call that the princess, right?
Dilietto the diva is like we like to refer to him. So, question about money, since you're the money man. I am a small business owner. Jesse's a small business owner. You brought up the rat race, the rat wheel, the hamster wheel. You're just running, you're running from one fire to another, cranking the wheel. Receivables are coming in, they're going out. I'm approaching the $1 million mark. He's in the $3 million mark. and we're trying to always make ends meet, always look up for the next thing. Whereas other people that I see in the same kind of sales mindset with their business, they're living, cash rich. So I've always asked people in accounting when I meet them, is there a different way that I should be looking at money? Is there, once I cross the $1 million, $2 million, $3 million mark, is there equity in my business that I'm not tapping into? I'm just living the day to day.
Well, a lot of business owners aren't really familiar with the financials of a company. So they're intimidated. They don't want to ask the question. They don't want to look stupid to either the people in their organization. They don't want to look dumb to, the people that they answer to in banks.
Sometimes their own accountant.
Their own accountant. They just, oh yeah, I understand everything. And meanwhile, they're like, oh, what does this mean? I have no clue. So I think the biggest thing that a business owner can do is educate themselves about how to be financially savvy in your own business. Part of that process is to understand how to build the infrastructure of your company so that you're not depleting the resources you need to continue to grow it to larger sales. And I'll give you an example of someone who I met recently on the golf course who's telling me about
On the golf course.
house. I'm on the golf course. Yeah, I have time to be on the golf course. Okay, is that successful, or are you still working in your business? Anyway, house down in Florida, house up here, vacation home in Vail, traveling the world, drives a crazy car, and I'm thinking, okay, knowing all those things that you just mentioned, to be able to afford all those things, going through my head, the type of business that he's in, he's probably doing anywhere from $8 to $10 million in sales. So I turned to the accountant next to me, who is the accountant who's handling his account. I said, how big is his business? Sounds like he's doing pretty well. He's like, he's only about $1.5 million.
Holy shit.
I said, well, and right away I know he's in debt up to his ass.
Yep.
He's hawking the business like crazy. He doesn't care about building infrastructure, and he's really in it for himself. And that's the general thing that we, when I was in accounting, that's what we would see. We'd see the business owners who were killing their own business, and they complain, how come I'm not growing? And then you have the other side of the coin, the conservative ones, who know what the term retained earnings means. It means you're keeping it in the business. So if you go back to Principles of Business 101, and this is where they start to fall asleep, folks. This is where they start to nod. They turned this into a podcast that became a boring seminar on money.
Somebody
Anyway.
give me $100 bills, I could light a cigar.
What's the definition of capital? Capital is money invested to make more money,
Yep.
right? That's the whole point of it. And so to get to your point, business owners generally don't understand what level of profit they need to sustain their life, personal life, business life. They think that the business and their personal are really one.
Well, I think there's a lot of people, and I've known, I grew up in seeing a lot of this, is that there are a lot of people, a lot of business owners that don't pay themselves salary. They don't have fixed levels. So I knew that was something that I learned pretty quickly, to where okay, I'm going to establish, a salary for myself, and live off that, because that, I think a lot of people don't do that. They just think we had a great month. We collected, $300,000 this month. It's great. Let's do shit.
Well,
But,
baby boomers, in the past were, really to blame for a lot of these whole entire standards that are being set for the next generation. You talk to some guys that went into the stock market in the 80s and 90s. The first thing you tell them, go buy a BMW.
Yeah.
Why? Go buy a Mercedes. Why are you telling them to do that?
I actually heard somebody talk about this. It was the worst piece of advice that I ever fucking heard ever. It was go out and buy yourself a fancy car.
You deserve it.
No, not even that.
I'll set your
So
mind.
and it was along the lines of go and lease it, because if you have the pressure of payments to make, you're going to perform. I was like, that is the stupidest fucking thing that I've ever heard.
Well, and baby boomers and Gen Xers generally followed that rule, where the millennials now are more about making sure they have quality of life. They're not driven by the same materialistic things that other generations were. And the way that ties back to the business and being able to understand it is, you're setting your standard for your living. If you're making $100,000 a year and you're spending $100,000 a year, and your business can afford to pay you $100,000 a year, which, by the way, folks, if you're not living in the Northeast or anywhere around New York City, you're barely getting by on that, okay? And I know that's hard to understand, but we'll talk about that maybe another episode.
Kinda true.
It's ramen in Elliot's green room.
So
Elliot's got $100,000 in a briefcase.
So 100,000, but here the business owner who goes out and starts to pull 120, 150, and really can't support the $100,000 themselves. Now they're driving their business further into debt. They're increasing their lines of credit, and they're still paying themselves a higher salary, when they're not analyzing their profit margins. They're not growing the top line. They're not budgeting.
I mean, I do also. I mean, like from our perspective, like what we, it's a stage thing too. Like for us, we got to a point where we started doing good, and then we rewarded ourselves, and then things kind of stood here for a while. So my thought process is like, I know some people are I'm not super conservative, but I'm also not ultra risk. Like, we're gonna push this thing all the way. My thought process was like, round one, we got to a certain place. I put myself and my partner, and we put ourselves in a good spot personally. And now round two, we're gonna be a little bit more conservative, and we're gonna let that balance build until we hit ourselves again.
But
and I think
you
that's
didn't pay yourself, but you didn't pay yourself
in the beginning
an exorbitant salary.
Yeah.
See, and I find it to be steps. When a business owner starts out in a small business and they're barely making payroll and they're just squeaking by and they're putting 90 hours a week into building the business, then they're okay with a $50,000 a year salary just to get by. When they make that bump up and they break the $1 million in sales or $2 or $3 million in sales and they're making more money, they bump up to here in salary, but then they go out and buy a bigger house. They buy a fancier car.
Yeah. 100%.
Now all of a sudden they've elevated their standard of living.
Yes.
And what I'm trying to point out when
That
we talk
you have
about
to be very careful with.
is that when you elevate your standard of living and your business cannot maintain you at that standard of living, you end up in a battle and a problem, because now you end up really the business ends up driving. The personal life drives the business, not the business driving the personal life.
Sure.
Your business success should determine what you can afford in life.
Yeah, if you put yourself in a situation where you need $25,000 a month just to break even.
And I've had people come to me and say, "Oh, now I'm selling my house. I'm moving to the North Shore. I'm moving to a certain area."
I was just having a conversation about this the other
and
day.
what they do,
No, about how that's specifically what I really don't want to do. I was talking to my wife about it.
This is my point, is that, and I can give you actual situations, and this was an attorney who I had this conversation with, and I said, your children are almost out of high school, and you're moving into a $1.5 million home with 4 bedrooms, but your kids are almost out of high school, which means they'll be going to college and they're almost out of the house.
Yeah, not smart.
Why would you be, because I've always wanted to live in this neighborhood. So what's driving those decisions? And again, your business success should help to determine your level and standard of living. Not that I'm elevating my standard of living and now, holy crap, I got to build a business.
To catch up.
And you know what? If that means I got to go into debt in the business, it'll be worth it because I need that debt to drive me into it. No. Understand your business. Look at the business as a separate entity aside from yourself.
But it comes back like what we talked about previously. I mean, one of the real tricky difficulties with this is that it comes back to like trying to find something that you do that you get real fulfillment out of. Because a lot of people, whether they work for somebody or they're in business, a lot of times it's about just making more money.
But not everybody's driven by money anymore.
If you're in that game, you're just making more money just to make more money, to spend more money, and it just keeps on feeding itself.
Well, let me kind of bring it back. My question is, you brought up the person that pays himself $150,000 and the business can't afford it, right. And you hear all these stories of businesses that aren't profitable, but the guy, the CEO is living like a baller, and the company hasn't made $1 yet. Where does this capital come from?
Well, there's only 3 ways that money comes into a business. It's either coming from the business owner, where he or she invest their own personal savings into the business. That's number 1. Number 2 is either in the form of debt or loans, that either somebody's lending you the money or you're going to the bank and borrowing money, which means that you have some level of creditworthiness, whether it's SBA or whether it's a bank that's lending you based upon your sales, your profit, or your assets. or profit. Those are the three ways money comes into a business. And generally speaking, the biggest hurdle that business owners have is the comprehension.
Leaving the profit in the business?
Comprehension that there's a term called retained earnings. And that means, folks, that you actually retain the earnings in the business. I'm trying to be a smart ass, but I really can't. It's the end of the day and I'm a little tired. But, and so to bring it to that point, when money only funnels into a business one of three ways, you clearly don't want it to be your capital constantly, because that means you're depleting your resources. You had to make money. You pay taxes on that. You're going to put your money into the business and hopefully get it out someday. Hopefully sell the business.
But I mean,
and get it out
it's all this stuff is very personal, though. It's very like you take 5 different people who own businesses and they have five, like, because I
what do you
know
mean it's personal. Define personal. What do you mean
like,
personal?
It's
Why?
very personal in terms of like it's like a personal
how you do
strategy.
It?
Like
personal.
because
this is business. This isn't personal.
I know a guy. I'm not going to mention any names, but I know I have a business relationship with a guy.
I got a guy
who's got a $50 million company, right? Mm-hmm. And he lives large, but he pulls every fucking coin out of that cash register, and he's got it to a science, to where to a science. And
who's telling you that? He is, or you know
no,
that you've seen it.
I've seen it.
Do you handle the finances of the company?
No,
it's hearsay, Your Honor.
Well, all right. So let's just assume that it's true.
Okay. For the sake of the story.
I mean, he's super cheap. He's incredibly cheap with how he runs what he runs. He doesn't pay, people high salaries, and he watches every penny, and he takes care of himself, but he doesn't want to grow the enterprise. He has no desire for that. Okay. His deal is he does his $50 million, he pulls out the money for himself, and he rolls it over year, and he's got it down.
So what do you mean it's personal?
But what I'm saying is that, like, for me, I like if it was my company, right? Because I know a bunch of guys who know him, and we talk a lot about, like, well, I don't get why he's the way he is, but sometimes when I think about it, I say, well, if that model works for him, like, I wouldn't do it that way. I would invest a little bit more into people. I would to have a little bit more smoother seas, to maybe grow the company bigger, because they could be, in my brain when I look at what they do, I think he could be a much bigger company than what he is, right?
But you don't know that.
But he doesn't want it.
Right.
He doesn't want it.
Is that the part where you're saying it's personal?
Exactly.
Well,
that's what
how
I'm saying.
big or how small your company is a personal decision.
Well, and also how you manage the cash position too. Because
absolutely not, because there's certain fundamentals.
But why would you leave profit? Why would you leave profit in the till if you have no reason? Like, if you're not planning on growing it. If let's just say you do $5 million a year, and
for the ease of mind, for not having to go to a bank to borrow money, that would add an additional cost to the business.
Yeah, but what if
you
have the proper financing and you do an OPM and your numbers are right, and you're pulling your money?
As long as the profit margins are there, it's not. Those aren't personal reasons, though. Everything you just named as to why you would do something is a business decision.
No, but that's my point. My
but
point
good
is
sound
that,
business decisions are going to drive how you handle the finances of your company.
But your personal situation and your personal thought process is going to guide how you make those decisions.
When I see
some people will be like,
people,
I will absolutely positively, I can't go to sleep at night if there is an X amount of dollars in the operating account.
Okay, but there's
other guys will zero it out.
You're talking about
days.
a comfort level.
Yeah.
Right? And I had this, again, another conversation recently. I presented to a business owner recently that he had to pay certain premiums on things. Okay, and I said, well, it's going to cost you $2,000. You got $2,000 in the bank. I only got $50,000 in the bank right now. I know, but it's only $2,000 for the premium. Yeah, but I like to have a cushion of $40,000 in the bank, and I'm going to wait till next week when I get the check. It's $2,000.
I wish, man. I wish.
Well, and this is my point. See, what I'm trying to point out is that there's good sound business practice, good sound business decisions. Personal reasons for money impact how you handle those business decisions. Absolutely.
Yeah, but see,
and the way you grew up with money has a lot to do with how you treat it both personally and professionally.
Definitely.
If you have no appreciation, no respect for the money, and you're sitting there looking at it as just, it's a means to an end, then that's the way you're going to treat it in your business.
But going back to the guy that I know, like he like you can't argue with his success, and he does it in a way that I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it like
you would not mimic that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But it works for him. It works for him, and it's like it's. But I think if you polled 5 accountants, they'd probably say that I wouldn't recommend doing it that way either.
I know, but you're saying that as if every single accountant is the same. Smart business.
They're not?
They
don't all have
I
to
could pull 5 different accountants, and I could tell you that they're all not going to give you the same answer. My point is that going back to the original conversation about money, that when you look at your business, make sure that the results of the business are driving your personal life, and not the other way around. That your personal standards aren't driving your business as to what it's supposed to do, and what it's not supposed to do. You can have goals and aspirations to grow the business so that you can eventually achieve certain levels of personal wealth. That's fine. And now you have the goals to build the business up, and maybe you're going to sit there and focus on the marketing and focus on the sales and do the things within the infrastructure that it takes to really build a business. But it's not going to be, well, I bought a $3 million house and I've got a $20,000 a month mortgage payment, which means I have to go out there and my business has to do $15 to $20 million in sales. That's the wrong driver.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people do that, though. A lot
of people do that. Or they put themselves into a position where they're really not investigating or really thoroughly understanding their industry. And this is very popular with people who are in any type of brokerage type business. Do you guys remember people that were in the mortgage broker business? Where are they today?
That was such a racket. I mean,
okay. I just asked if you remembered. That's a yes?
That's
okay.
a yes.
Right.
But when I think about that, I think about a lot of things.
There are a lot of different types of industries where they're not regulated and you're able to go out there and make money. And what happens? These guys,
all the fucking schmucks I went to high school with that would never have been able to do anything else. Some of those guys are making like $1 million a year selling mortgages.
But it wasn't.
We should talk about that.
We
should get one of those guys on the show.
It wasn't sustainable. You're not sustaining that.
Subtitles because they all sound like Marvel.
When the two of you are building a business, you're each building businesses. You're building businesses that are sustainable, and that's the key to success. The key to success is not just building a business that you can pull money out of to support your family or sustain your life.
All right, so we'll cut it there. Otherwise,
everybody awake still? Everybody's out there?
Elliot's Fiji water is going to drop below 72 degrees, and we don't want that. It's very angry.
Not this deep.
So we'll be right back. So that's our show for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. What have we learned, Jesse?
So basically, be a fucking asshole to everybody that you don't want to spend time with. Spend more money than you make.
Absolutely not.
Lots of drugs and sex.
Well,
and if after you figure all that shit out, then you can get disciplined and hold on to the cash in the bank account and zen out when you go to meetings and be nice to everybody. No, I think you just got to be yourself and take your time, spend it incredibly wisely because that's the only non-renewable resource.
All right.
Drugs and sex.
Very good. Elliot, 60-second pitch on evaluating your business, living within your means, and how to squeeze an extra steak dinner out of your business.
If you want to live a long life, if you want to have less stress in your life,
hire me, Elliot Toledo.
Well, sales pitch. No, you should spend more time working on the business than in it. And that means really setting up process structure. It's a phrase that's constantly thrown around. I think that anybody out there who's really frustrated in their business and really wants to get out really doesn't realize how quick it takes to just turn around and change some things and be able to get that value that you really deserve. So change it up a little bit. Work on it, not in it.
All right, guys. So maybe take a few minutes this week, and instead of focusing on building your sales numbers, start building some processes and procedures that'll increase the value of your business exponentially. And I guess don't be afraid to be a dick and categorize the winners and losers that come through your office, and don't waste time with the little guys. We'll see you next time.